It's not happening at YouTube. It's still waiting. Oh, hang on, I think. Yep, yep, we started. Well, greetings everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of the Inworld Review. I had a slight glitch there a minute ago. I don't know why. I was looking at YouTube and waiting for the stream to start, and it didn't seem to be starting. I refreshed the page, and then it did start. Who knows? Anyway, welcome to the wonderful technology that is Inworld Review on YouTube. Every Sunday, weekly, at noon Pacific time, 9 p.m. European time, 8 p.m. UK time, except at the moment it isn't. But it will be again next week when the time clocks magically synchronize themselves again, if you call 8 hours difference. Sync. My name is Mal Burns, and I am joined here in the studio by my right-hand man, the technological wizard that is James Atlloud. Welcome, James. Yep. Okay, well, good luck with all the fiddling of the knobs and the buttons, and hope you're comfortably sat, even though one of your legs seems to have dissolved into the cushion. Yes, well, exactly. And on my left-hand side, of course, left-hand lady, maybe I should call her that now. A wonderful co-host is Tosha Tyran. Welcome, Tosha.
Well, thank you, Mel. I'm glad to be here.
And we have a guest with us tonight. I'm going to introduce her now anyway. We'll be talking to her in a few minutes' time. Her name is Lavia Levine, and she has actually been on this show before, so she's familiar with the setup and everything. Welcome, Lavia.
And her
Thank
name,
you,
if I
Mel.
may correct that, is Lavia.
Yes, Livia.
Lavia, like Maria. It should be
Oh,
easy
yeah,
even
of
for you,
course.
Mel.
You corrected me once before. That rhymes with
Yes.
Maria, so it's Lavia. God, I should know better, shouldn't I? I mean, Lavia didn't correct me. It had to be Tosha that corrected me. Okay, I'll just say, hey, you on the seat over there from now on.
Hey, you, that'll work.
Maria Lavia, yeah.
That would
Anyway.
actually be a little rude, wouldn't you think, Lavia? Hey, you.
No, that. I'm joking. Okay, could do that. Never mind. We'll get there in the end. We will remember. I'm sure I'll spend the next half hour being prompted by Tosha to say, it's not. It's not Lavia, it's Lavia. I was trying to sing it like Aqua Maria. Oh, never mind. I can't remember what I'm trying to talk about anyway. Okay, so this is a show that we call the Inworld Review, and Inworld is really referring to the hypergrid. We look at places, people, and arts all across the hypergrid. And for those who don't know what the hypergrid is, it's a communication system that sort of allows you to jump from one virtual world to another and have communications between them and have groups that cross them, etc., etc. And there are many sort of hundreds, if not thousands, of different regions out there. Some big, some large, some amateur, some professional, some semi-commercial, others free for all. A whole variety of things to check out, really, and we endeavour to do that. The grid, the word grid comes from, that's the name we tend to give to individual virtual worlds as opposed to the actual locations that are on those worlds, so to speak. So without further ado, that's what we're doing. And we'll be going in a minute or two to, well, I'm going to announce it now because, oh, adverts. Sorry, we got an advert from Open Sim World there. Okay, we're going to be looking at a region, a Japanese region actually, which is called the Island of Wisdom, which is the way I wrote it down. I don't know how to pronounce the actual name, so Lavia, Maria Lavia,
Chinoshima.
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 Chinoshima. Okay. Right. Okay. It's a region set in the time of the Emperor Goes. Yeah, I'll let you do the talking in a few minutes anyway. Before we go in there, let me do a quick sort out on the web page here. No, nothing actually from Hypergrid Safari per se this week, but last Sunday there was a blog from Tosha. It's called Party On, and basically they were having this plaza stage in OS Grid that has a Friday night party, and of course with that particular grid offline for at least a good few weeks, they've actually continued the party by taking it to another grid. So there was one on Friday, and probably one this last Friday too. So Tosa popped along, took a few pictures, showing us that it's all action as per normal. Maybe a bit more than normal, come to think of it. Certainly a lot going on there. And yeah, there we are. Almost Islands, that's where it is. And to click back on the blog, I'm a little tired of where is it? Also a grid, blah, blah, blah. Okay, they've moved. Look at my mouse, it's jumping up and down. I'm trying to find out where the actual party is. Here we are, right. hg.sunlight-grid.com/AT and then :events plaza. And the area is called the Almost Islands. And that, Tuesday party. Oh, yeah. And another grid, another region has shipyardsgrid.com. :8002, the Almost Islands. It's vague there, but anyway, if you're missing the regular parties on OS Grid, which a lot of people do, it's one of the original grids, so it's regarded as a sort of a regular meetup. And here on a Craft Grid, a quick forever another post from Lorenza, and not quite sure how to. Pretty. This is obviously in Italian. So, do you want to tell me what this is? The title stands for Conversation of Confronti. Tosha? Oh, I lost Tosha again.
No, I'm here. I'm sorry. I was just.
I was just trying to get you to translate.
This means in dialogue, this is easy, and conversations and confrontations.
Oh, right. Well, I thought Confronti was right. Okay. Yeah, so this is presumably regular events on, yeah. Yeah, it's basically announcements, I suppose, unless we're on Craft World here, of course, but unless you actually speak Italian, I guess you won't be able to follow that much of this. But anyway, keep up to date with what's on Craft Grid at Cafenio, KAFENEIO.blog. And you can find out more about that. So that just leaves us here. I'm going to open Inworld, and this is the region we're looking at today. A little bit of a slideshow there. Is it a slideshow? Well, a couple of pictures anyway. And it's all Japanesey. So I'm going to let Lavia. I'm going to have to pause every time I say it. Tell us a little bit more about that as we go along. So, Lavia, you obviously specialize in making worlds and building them. I mean, you have many of them. I don't know how many we've come and talked about in the past. This one is actually relatively new, isn't it? It says 5 months since you created it, but as you say, it's still a work in progress, isn't it?
Very much so. I mean, it's there's a lot to do. There are 2 of us working on it, and one of them is one of our um, premier premier builders, Thorwalder, he goes by, and he's very much into Japanese builds, and he actually lived in Japan for a while.
All
And
right.
so I get a lot of information from him, and then information of my own that I look up and do research on the internet. And that's where I got the information for this particular build. And I love the Japanese culture. I love how they build, and the intricacies of their architecture is just so beautiful.
Yeah, I've sort of I'm a bit of a history buff, but not in that part of the world. I always have the impression that sort of Japanese culture is a long-standing culture, but that is still sort of with us to a certain extent. But certainly, what the more civilized um, parts of the world in an early, when Europe was in its medieval or barbarian times, and Japan was quite a sort of civilized part of the world. That's the way I always think of it. I may be wrong.
Well, I
Um,
think civilization would be a matter to um, to discuss. You cannot say this is more civilized than the other part, really. But what I think is really astonishing, Lavia, you said you've never been to Japan yourself.
No, I've never been there. Any information that I have about Japan, I've gotten from watching documentaries,
Mm,
reading things like National Geographic, those things,
mm,
and that gives me a very good idea of what Japan is like. And I love what I've seen in those things and what I've learned, and then of course what I've learned from Thorvalder. It is a magnificent culture, and they're a magnificent people.
mm. I think it's quite amazing. Well, I've been there. You remember that I've been there, and it was not very much built yet, but one could see already that you've done really a great job, and I'm sure it's much better yet because you've gotten ahead. Wonderful.
okay, well, I started the film running. We've sort of panned it. I've now paused it again, but I know before we came on air, I was zooming in on this bit, and I remember you commented on it. It was a medical thing or something. So, yeah, assuming you can see the film as it's running, we can sort of comment on this, and you can tell us about it as we go, and we will be
That's a
asking.
meditation. It's a meditation to go there and
Yeah.
meditate and reflect, and it has like there's soft keto music playing, and just different things that they have for their shrine. This particular one is to a blue dragon, and a dragon is very important in the Japanese culture. And when they go there and they offer mostly fish and things like that, offerings to the particular dragon that they pay homage to.
Hmm.
And then what we were just looking at was a tea house, like a small tea house on the side, and they'll go there and sit and reflect and have tea together. Um, it might just be one person, it might be several different people together, and of course then they have social conversation about things. And I don't know, they're just such an interesting, reflective people.
Hmm. As I left it, I was sort of walking, got caught in a walk. There we are. The pathways to the building there. I then moved over to the actual res point, which is where I actually landed. That's where we were just now in the background. Of course, I couldn't move through the foliage. That was my fault. I got the camera stuck on something. Right, so this is the landing area now, and you've immediately got two choices of pathways. This one, if I recall, actually doubles back to this building and then where we were a minute ago. Forget where we are. What I loved about this was there's some neat pathways. The fact that they've got these little lanterns all the way around, sort of meticulously, and these wonderful, colourful trees. I don't know if there's any sort of they have trees in real life that are actually that um, psychedelic almost. I keep looking at these sometimes, think, how is that possible for a plant? But
Those are all
flowers and
cherry blossom, cherry
yeah.
blossom trees, and cherry blossom that's something that they love that in Japan, and a lot of the cherry blossom trees don't actually give cherries, but then many of them do. And in fact, I think a lot of the cherry blossom trees that they have in DC, originally Washington DC, originally came from Japan.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I thought the same thing. Yeah.
Very dense region too. I mean, out of curiosity, I mean, some of these pathways are quite subtle. You don't realize you're going uphill when they look very flat, but the bits where you're actually going uphill. But what did you, when you're approaching the building something like this, it could actually be any other build really. Do you focus on the terraform first and then putting the stuff in, or do you arrange the stuff and then terraform around it? I mean, it's sort of very particular question, but I've been doing a bit of both recently, so I found it a curious sort of thing to ask, really. Um,
I get an image in my head of what I want to do. The first thing I do is the initial terraforming, and that is the entire region all at once. I usually
right,
roughen it up a bit. And then as I fly over it, I see places where paths can go. And
right,
then I go through and flatten those out and make paths and so forth. And the next step then is to add the trees. And once the trees are in, then I focus on actually putting in the path like you see here, this brick path with the sidewalk sort of with the lanterns on it.
right.
And that kind of gets me, once I have that done, then I'm really in the mood to do the rest of the building.
I think I agree with that. There's sort of there's two pros and cons with the trees. When the trees are there, you really feel like you've created a living terrain, rather than just rocks and land.
Hmm.
But then also you suddenly realize, well, I've got so many trees, I can't see underneath them, and as you try and get underneath to add details, you find your camera gets stuck and you're navigating your own trees to work underneath them. But you know what I mean. It's swings and roundabouts, really. But yeah, I did find the trees, they make it, a living kind of habitat, and the sounds and things like birds. I don't know if you've got birds here. Don't know
Yeah,
whether you have.
I do put sounds in. What we're looking at now is the Emperor's Palace,
The
and
big one.
that was an interesting thing to build. I had a lot of fun doing it, but there were times when certain things didn't work the way I wanted them to, and so I said words that are not repeatable. But I did finally get it built. When I want to put a building in a certain area, I usually go in and delete the trees. And
Right.
then I put, like in a big area, I'll delete the trees out, and then I put in what I want in, and then I refill it with trees instead of using the magic tree reser. I just do those by hand.
Hmm.
Ah, secrets here. Magic tree resin. I don't know what this is. I do them all by hand. Ah, you must do tell. I love the detail on these doors, by the way. But you open one here, and then you go to there's another one, and that actually
Hmm.
leads outside. But I think you could go left or right there, if I recall. That's right. If you go left or right along the corridors, it's architecturally, it's different indoors as well. It's not just the look of it on the outside, the way things are arranged indoors. And of course, many of rooms are
Hmm.
usually kind of like sliding walls, aren't they? I mean, sliding doors, but they're not recognizable as kind of doors that we would have in the West, for example, where you
Now there
can
are a
go
lot of
under.
sliding doors on the interior. The exterior tends to have the regular doors. And the reason that it's done that way with the double doors is when you go through the first door, you can go right or left and you're still inside the palace walls. Those are the fortress walls that they would use to defend should they come under attack.
Right. So it's a
And this
multi-layer.
is right. This is in the like I guess just after the Edo period, before they went into the shogunate, which is when they had a shogun. that actually ruled Japan at one point. And for a while they were quite the warrior country, and they tended to conquer those around them. And when you had the shogun rise to power, he actually brought all of Japan under one roof, so to speak.
Okay. Can
I was
you
like,
can you can you give a number, like a year, what more or less when that happened?
Uh, Let me look this up quick.
I seem to remember watching I think it's a TV series, like a mini series
Hmm.
called Shogun that actually, um, the Shogun was not Japanese, was he, or something? But he rose in Japanese society. I
Yeah,
forget now.
he was Japanese. The one that you're talking about was a movie called Shogun,
Yeah,
um, and it was actually it was a mini series that they had. Richard Chamberlain was in it, and he was an Englishman who got caught in the Japanese time
yeah.
of the Shogun. But the Shogun, I believe, was between. Let me look here real quick. 1009 and 1045. So between 1009 and 1045, it
Mm-hmm.
was under the 69th emperor of Japan, and that was Emperor Go Suzaku.
Okay.
And yeah, he was a shogun, and that's the era that we built this to be in to represent that particular era.
That's amazing. That is quite a short time, a sort of 30-year period. Um, makes makes you question the real world for a minute. How something that major lasted just 30 years. So as you say, they were changing times.
They went in waves. There was a show that I watched just not too long ago about Japan, and it went in waves, and each wave got progressively larger as to the area that they took in. And once it was large enough, they were able to conquer the whole of Japan and bring it under one emperor.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And they had a one of the things that I like about the Japanese that I've seen is that they have such a deep respect and appreciation for nature.
That is true. That is definitely true.
I think when I mistakenly used the word civilized earlier on, and Tosha queried that. I mean, I don't mean advanced technological civilization. Just the fact, as you say, they had respect for nature and their buildings. They had a sensibility about it, which
Hmm.
it was far. Other cultures would just throw things together. I won't mention any names, but I mean, whereas you just feel like this would all have been planned and fairly meticulously in a sort of organized way.
Yeah, I think that had a tremendous influence on the architect Frank Lloyd Wright. He had a lot of
Yes,
ancient
yes.
culture in his background and study, and then that influenced his architecture and really the integration of architecture and artifice with nature.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Of course, we did have a safari visit here to Falling Waters, I think it was called, which is actually a virtual recreation of one of Lloyd Wright's builds. And there have been a few, but that's one particularly where the water and the building and yeah, everything is
Hmm.
tied together. So yeah, I can see that influence there. But I
In
even
the
picked up.
background there, you could see the top of one of the temples that I had built, and this is one that we got from another grid that had a lot of Japanese stuff on it, and they had some
Right.
very beautiful Japanese stuff. But then some of the builds are Thorvalders, and he actually did a beautiful job on the buildings.
Hopefully
And
the camera.
other builds mesh or brims?
Um, I think most of what he did it was in Prim. I did the larger builds that I did. They're partial mesh and partial Prim.
Okay.
Yeah, I picked up it sometime in a couple of weeks ago, actually, for this region. I haven't used it. It's sort of it was a Japanese build, like in this sort of style thing, but it was actually all on wood and on the water, on stilts and stuff. So it was a bit like a Japanese building and park on a lake. It didn't come with the lake, but apart from that, yeah, it's a rather. I looked at it and thought it was rather a bit big in the end, but.
The textures
It's
that you liked on the doors,
yeah.
those I actually made. I have an AI art generator,
Oh,
and so
right.
I made those textures in that generator, and they turned out very nice. So I thought, you know what, I love to make my own textures now.
Yeah.
Mm.
So it's been called the art of the prompt now, and presumably it was your historical research or awareness of what was going on here that you knew how to prompt to get the right texture, if you see what I mean.
Yeah,
So,
I had researched and I had learned that the blue dragon was actually considered the dragon of great wisdom. It was also the dragon that was controlled the waters and the oceans and this sort of thing, which is why they offer fish whenever they go to the meditation points. And so I just, typed in blue dragon and kept going until I got one that I really, really liked. And then that's what I used for the texture.
Mm.
right. All right, this is the next bit of film. We got through that 13 minutes rather quickly. There's another
Yeah.
10 here anyway. Sort of, I think I realised there was a whole bit at one end of the island I hadn't somehow covered. It was great fun doing this too because it's a bit like I'm doing it. I like it when you get lost. So that you lose your sense of direction, and it can be infuriating if you're trying to make a quick film and get everything into 10 minutes or something. But on the other hand, the when the landscape is enough twists and turns and elevation and stuff like that, and you think, have I been there before? And did I come from the right direction, or was it, is this just a similar building? Um,
Okay, that particular build is one that Thorvalder did. And as I said, he lived in Japan, so he's very familiar with their architecture, and he did an amazing job.
I wonder, the Japanese are known for using a lot of paper in their builds. Paper windows, paper walls, even. Is that not cold in the wintertime? Or when it rains, or when there's a storm?
point.
I am sure it would. Northern Japan, they don't use the paper as much as the southern part of Japan does. They acclimate to the weather. And some of the buildings, when you get further north, um, they tend to be all wooden huts.
Okay.
And he said there are some that they even put like the grass on the roofs, the thatch roofs. And so yeah, they acclimate, and they have uh, like open fireplaces on the inside so that they can keep the building warm on the inside.
Mm.
Have they got fireproof paper? I will
Well, I
balk
I
at that.
think one thing that is good for the constant moving of the earth in Japan. It is much better to have wood and paper than to have stone walls, that crash down on you. The
Oh, what is
earthquakes, I mean.
earthquake territory, mate. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, wood, when you think about it, is very sort of flexible. It's,
Yeah. Yeah.
brick and stone are
Mm.
very hard. They would just shatter or shift. Um, it's like wood, we even get it in the West, I think, if it's, well, I certainly get it, if it's like winter and you've got heating on and stuff, you move around, and that's fine. And then when you put summer's coming and you put the heating off, the wood in the building changes temperature, and you start to get creaks and things. After a few weeks, the creaks are gone because the wood has settled into its new thing, you know.
Mm.
And then come to advent of next winter, it happens again. You know, it shrinks a bit. But in the heat, the wood expands a bit, basically. I think, and that's in
Too,
cold.
if you think about it, this is in the more ancient part of Japan. So their architecture was much more different than it is now. They do use concrete and brick and stone and so forth now. But in the older times, you know, they used what they had available, which was the wood, and they could make the paper, and it just I love the ancient cultures. A lot of my builds are on the older cultures and
Mm-hmm.
the more ancient builds, and it just I'm intrigued by all of them.
Yeah. When this is over, we'll maybe have a short discussion. I haven't got the pictures, but on the other builds too. Yeah, I noticed on Inworld, I was looking at the list there. You know, it's, under your name, basically, look you up by
Mhm.
name, and it's got a long
Mhm.
list of your different regions, all of
That
which probably
that
just come.
build that build again, is one of Thorvalder's builds, and as you can see, he's very, very familiar with the ancient builds. He's very familiar with Japan, and so I love working with him. He has a medieval region that he's doing on our grid. That is the inside fireplace that I was talking about. Just like a big square in the floor. It's usually surrounded by some form of stone or whatever, and then they use that to heat the building and to cook on.
Do they have but is there a kind of chimney built in somehow, some to take the smoke and flame from coming up?
It's usually a slight opening in the roof, and
Right.
it would just dissipate out through that.
Yeah.
And of course, that's the bridge over to the palace, and that's the back entrance into the palace.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. We saw this from the other side, didn't we?
Hmm.
You find, but this probably applies to other bills too, but I mean, this, as you say, is still a work in progress. So it'll be a while before we've completed it. I think we can get a pretty good idea of how the completed thing will look. It just have a bit more complex. But will you have any kind of educational function over and beyond your desire, shall we say, to recreate it? You know, by which I mean, obviously there's backstory to all this that you can talk about, but do you see you know, like class or college outings or stuff other than Hypergrid Safari coming to actually learn, you know, coming to the region to actually learn things historically?
That would be something that I would like. In fact, a lot, like you said, a lot of my regions are based on historical things. And I do try to include that information in one form or another, usually where they can get a note card and they can read about the area and the region and the history behind it. As far as actual colleges or classes to teach, um, if there's someone out there that would like to do that, I would be more than happy to have them on our grid to do that. Um, I really wouldn't have the time at this point.
Yeah. No, it's just, you know, sort of, you know, you often wonder. I've come across not Safari, but other sort of outing things and the virtual worlds, especially, you know, all over the place. It's run by educators and things. And
Hmm.
unlike Safari, which focuses on the people and the creative side of it, you know, the educators tend to look for this will tell us about that, and the other. And you know, they're the ones. It's the leader of the pack when on the tour that's actually doing the educating, but they're taking advantage of the fact the bills are already there. And I suppose it depends on the quality of the build, whether they choose to use them. You know, if it's something that's well researched, then it's an ideal candidate for teaching. If it's fantastical and not really in touch with reality, then not quite so much, maybe.
Right, and I would love like those kind of groups. I'd love to have them come and tour the region and see that, and if they want to use it, like even spend a couple weeks there, going through the whole education and explaining what things are and how they work and why they were like that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
But really, it seems like a
Oh my God, a ship.
fantastic region.
Yeah. I remember thinking I was filming it, I almost wish I could spend more time filming this. I think I've got everything in. But, I can imagine when you've, as this progresses, the same piece of film will be twice as long. To really
I'll
put stuff
probably
in.
have I'll probably have pictures and stuff available as well. Um, but like you said, there is a lot to do yet. I haven't been focusing on it because we have other things going on the grid, and I've had to drop progress on this in order to go do that.
Right. Uh, huh. Okay, let's do it this way. Live in action. I moved to La Via. Oh, sorry. La Via. I did it again, nearly. Right, about myself here. This is your page, saying about it. But as I said, the top region there that you've got listed is the one we've just seen. But look at all these other ones. They're all on Genesis Roleplay grid. So going to grid.genesis-roleplay.org, code on 8002. Without a region, you're going to come across quite a selection. I presume that there's a main landing point which has links to all these regions.
Hmm
Uh,
That
I've noticed,
that second one, Amasango, that is definitely a role play region,
yeah,
and it's fantasy. It's a cool region.
based on the Witcher. Did I see it?
Yeah,
There we are. Got this
yeah, it's
right.
like Witcher fan base sort of thing. And it's a very different version from what you would see on TV.
Yeah,
Because we've taken three of the characters and put them in a whole new universe.
right.
Very interesting. Which
So
characters?
Hmm What was that, James?
Oh, which
you said
characters?
which character?
Tisea,
Okay.
um, and Geralt and Yennefer.
And Yennefer, of course. Excellent.
It looks like number 3 here, Welcome Center, is actually what I said. That's a main landing point for the whole grid, really, isn't it?
Correct. And that
Yeah.
also, at the Welcome Center, we have training tutorials to help people learn how to move and function and fly and jump and all sorts of things. And then we have places where they can go to create their female avatar, their male avatar. Once they have done that, then they can go back and go to our mall and shop for other things that they might need. So we kind of have everything that they need right there on the grid to get them started
Mm-hmm.
in their hypergrid adventures.
All right. Are these any of these areas commercial? I mean, do you use Globits when you for the mall, or is it all stuff people can get for free, or a mixture of
We're
both?
we're not monetized. We do have the Masala Al Kaav Mall. That's our commercial region, and everything there is it's free. Go there and get a house and get clothing and get furniture and get your avatars and whatever. We have all of it there for them. Um, we have an art gallery. We have an antiques thing. We have one where she is putting together bedroom suits and so forth. So we have all kinds of things that they can get there. Thorbalder has a building section for medieval buildings. I've got stuff all over the place. So, it's just and most of it there is original builds. We do have stuff that we've gotten from some other grids that, was free and free to give out. And but most of the builds, the architecture, um, there a lot of it's mine, and some of it is Thorvalder's.
Starbase. I think we're getting into science fiction here. The space storm came
Star,
out.
yeah, Starbase was one that I had started, and right now, I think I have its beacon is turned off because I'm redoing the whole thing. I didn't like what I had, so I just
Oh my
took it
gosh.
all down, and I'm starting over, and I'm gonna, you know, do it again, and hopefully it'll come out, better this time than it did the last time.
It always
Um,
does, doesn't
it
it?
just,
When you start something over, it's
yeah,
like, going to do it better this time.
right, and it's, it isn't that it was bad the first time, but I
Yep.
kept looking at it and going, I just don't like this,
Yeah. Hmm.
and so I
It's
started
like
over on
little,
it.
it's like little things and shortcuts and techniques and things that you learn as you go, and then you look at something old and think, "Well, I love that," but
Exactly,
I could do
exactly.
that better now, etc., etc. Yeah.
Hmm.
Now, Stag Hollow, actually, I believe I think I filmed that. Did I have you on talking about that?
Yes, you did.
Yeah,
And
we did on
then
that. I seem
this
to
year
remember
in February, we had the HG Safari tour of Stag Hollow.
exactly. Yeah. So,
Hmm.
yeah, knew that was familiar. A very memorable name too. I
Yeah,
don't know.
it's
Ages.
a, it's a Western
Yeah,
type thing, and I did it to show that the old West wasn't always the dusty, you know, gunfighting, that sort of thing. That was Hollywood. That wasn't the
Mm.
real Old
yeah.
West.
Well, the second series of the 1918 is this, or 1928? The Helen Mirren and Harrison Ford play this oldish couple, and it's a family sort of drama.
Hmm.
Set in say 18, no 19. I think I should remember a date, but there was a preview of that, which was an age. The name of it was a prelude. Sorry, 18 something, and that was
Hmm.
quite interesting because it was very nitty gritty and dirty in a way that really messy in a way that sanitized Western TVs shows don't so great, but it's an earlier prequel to the later series, and which is like 40 years later, and you just notice in that 40 years, it's you see towns, for example, and life is rough on the frontier, but somewhere there'll be a nearby town, and on the Midwest and the East really, you've got horse and garages, and you've got early motor cars, and all these the modern technology and the old technology and the wild and the civilized all mixed up together, coexisting, and I find that absolutely fascinating. Because it's a time of change when the past and the future are, actually visibly colliding. And so anyway, just found it intriguing. So, Sandbox, well, I think we can guess what that is.
Hmm.
Haven of Memories, right. Oh, yes. Earlier on, when I was looking at this, I thought these two sounded very intriguing. Can't remember what I
Yeah,
don't think.
Haven of Memories. I did that as a place where people, we all lose loved ones in
Yeah,
real life, and even in role play sometimes. But the Haven of Memories is there for people who have lost their in-world loved ones in real life.
right.
And if they send me the photographs and the information, I will build a memorial for that individual for them, and I send them a copy, and then I place one in the Haven of Memories. That's a place where people can come and hold memorial services if they like, because I have a place just for that. And then we can place the memorial They can put flowers and candles and whatever they like. I also do. There's one section of the Haven of Memories for our pets that we've lost, and I have
Ah, yeah.
several memorials for our pets in the Haven of Memories, and it's just a place to go and relax, and sit and think and reflect, and remember, and
Yeah.
maybe gain some solace from that for someone that you have lost.
Something, of course, that is hypergrid wide. I know it's on your grid, but I
We
have,
were there on a safari, remember?
yeah.
And it was really beautiful. It's a really, really very beautiful, wide open space where you have really time and leisure and to look around and to memorize people. It's really quite impressive.
And that's and yeah, Mel, you were right. That is for all over Open Sim. It is not just for our grid. It's for anybody who would like to come there, hold a memorial service, and place a memorial. And as I said, I also send them then a copy of the memorial that I make. But it's open to anybody in Open Sim that would like to have a memorial put up.
Traveling around the hypergrids are different, especially grids. You often find little memorials on an individual grid for somebody that it has been lost, and the memorial is on the grid they were part of, put together by their friends, co-workers, families, whatever. But it's almost, I hate to say it, but I suppose it's like any old grave in a graveyard. It can get lost. Whereas if it's in a big place which is devoted to that purpose, it's sort of it gains not prestige but gravity for being part of like a huge, a grander memorial site, I think.
Mhm.
Now, when I was curiously, I didn't go to this one. I was intrigued by the name when I was looking around on regions here. Masala al Kohav. This has another means wish upon a star. Now, I don't think we've been there. Have we?
Masala al Ka'av, yeah, that is Hebrew for wish upon a star, and that is our commercial region. That is our mall region.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. Okay, yeah, interesting. I don't know. I somehow thought it was, well, I don't know. Sort of words and languages are in that part of the world are actually often quite similar. So, Lioness Den, the Africa Savannah. We're really going all over the real world as well as the virtual world with your
Hmm.
choices, aren't we? Wildlife Habitat Reserve. I can't remember when I think maybe I have been here.
You were we did a an HG safari for that, and
Right.
it just so happened that the I believe the week before we did the safari, and then we did the in-world review for it, and it just happened to be scheduled that way. And
Right.
yeah, that is African wildlife. It's based in South Africa, and I just I love wildlife and nature and history. So those are all kinds of things that I tend to focus on whenever I'm building.
I just spotted something else here, 22 days ago, mind you. We still have till the end of March with the Open Sim World's Fair going on.
Hmm.
We've tended to announce this every week, but every time I went there, I found it a bit laggy and stuff. But there's been mixed opinions about that. But it sort of tries to have a sort of exhibit sort of thing for just about everything they can find in OpenSim, and using Wolf Territory's grid, of course, which is claims to have special abilities. um, so Genesis Roleplay Grid, you did have an exhibit there. Have you had much reaction from that? Are many people visiting your booth or whatever?
I really don't have a way of telling if they visited my areas. I have displays, several of them up, which are about the regions that I have up. I've been there. I've been to a few of the events. Unfortunately, my most recent circumstances haven't allowed me to go very often. But I did enjoy the times that I've gone to the events. Like you though, I found it a little bit on the laggy side sometimes. Um, but that's usually when there's a lot of people on it. Otherwise, I haven't had any real problems with it, but to tell if anybody's visited my displays, I really don't know unless they say something to me.
Yeah, they don't keep a log for you. Oh well. No, I actually went once when deliberately early, European time when I thought it'd be pretty deserted, and it was, but it was still so laggy I couldn't film or anything. So the only film I got is some very bad film we took when I think it's a week or two before it opened, and Safari went and got us a preview of it.
Right.
I just checking your post here to see if there's anything else I should be asking you. It's very you obviously are very good at posting here, which is keeping people up to date. It's a bit more like Facebook. This scroll. What do you call it? Doom scrolling. What I'm doing on screen there. Yeah, going back a fair old way to. I think we're okay. Okay, well,
I tend to post mostly our events, or like if we have a new region going up, something like that, I'll post that. And I post it on Facebook too. So we try to keep everybody up to date as to what we're doing and what we have going on and what events we have.
I think I better do it this way because it's taking a long while there. Right, so I'm just checking nothing particularly your likes. Also, oh yeah, a lot of good, sweet surroundings people. Lots of seeing people with good reviews for you there as well, which is particularly nice. Right, okay, so let's get back here. I'm going to keep the second of the films running again in the background until we, yeah, there we are. Just there's something running behind us. So, what's anything coming up we should know about? I mean, obviously, doing a bit more work on Japan is something that will be coming along. Any other new builds or projects in the works that you want to reveal at this time?
Well, we have a fun project going on right now. And it's when we plan to have a grand opening for it when it's done. We should be ready probably toward the end of May. But we are doing a really fun dinky region.
Oh,
Hmm.
all right.
Aw.
Tinies but dinky, or dinky but tiny.
Yes, and I have a little dinky character, a little avatar, and we have several of us now that have dinky avatars. And the little girl dinkies all have names for flowers. Mine is Poppy, Poppy McDinkles. And
Lovely.
then there is Daisy McDinkle and Rosie McDinkle and Pansy McDinkle, and I think we have a new one coming in, Posy McDinkle. And then the boy Dinkies, we have one is River McDinkle, and they will get names like Rocky McDinkle, things like that. The girls all get flowers, and the boys get the other stuff, kind of sugar and spice and everything nice. And the other one is the puppy dog tails. So we're sort of sticking with that. But we're going to have a grand opening on that, so we have all sorts of stuff for the Dinkies to do.
And will this be geared to kids at all? Or, I mean, I know there's a whole dinky, it's like the Tinies in Second Life, there's a whole community there. They're all adults just playing these sort of strange fantasy characters. But the way you describe it, I mean, I know you probably know for Chantal Harvey, she's a machinima filmmaker and mostly in Second Life. She's done stuff here. But she had a whole series of machinima she made, using. I think it was open sim. She filmed it, but it was fairy tale-ish sort of thing. She brought tinies or dinkies or whatever, and they were characters in the film she made, but it was obviously geared, the names like you're suggesting there and things. You could see that it was obviously geared to kids, even if it was filmed in a world where kids aren't allowed. The film was obviously designed to be watched by kids, So it's I'm curious because when I think of tiny, in Second Life, the Tinies are always having their art walks and things like that, which they're always made for good machinima, you know, because
Hmm.
they're just films of crazy bits of art, and the Dinkies are tiny little things wandering around singing in high-pitched notes. And yeah, I mean, you know, it is cute, but I mean, I personally think those things work perfectly as machinima film because you know, they could easily appeal to a generation that aren't yet, you know, enabled to come into open sim or even Second Life for that matter. I'm not saying they don't. I'm saying that they probably shouldn't.
Right.
But of course, there are many regions on the hypergrid that aren't on the hypergrid. Is more to the point. They're on open sim, but they're locked out of the hypergrid, so the kids can't
Hmm.
um, freely move into what might not be um, child-friendly regions. So
Yeah. The region that we're doing, the Dinky region itself, it is a 4x4 and it is rated general. So anybody can come there. Um, and as we see it, the Dinkies themselves are not children.
No.
They're just little fantasy critters, and
yeah.
they're cute and they're a lot of fun, and I think they're absolutely adorable, and that's why we're doing it for something to have fun with and enjoy that isn't adult oriented.
I've often found that the Dinkies are also incredibly smart and creative people behind them.
The
I have.
Chinese,
Yeah.
yes.
They
Yeah,
are, they
absolutely.
are.
Yep.
Yeah, it's hard. I've never well, I mean, it's not quite the same thing, but in Second Life, my avatar is you know a mesh pussycat that moves like a cat, and you know I can get
Mhm.
everywhere with it. No, you know I can be in a spaceship, I can be in an ancient Rome, I can be in an office. You know, the cat doesn't have to comply with any costume requirements, but more importantly, you know, it just moves around so fast, and the only drawback is he does get trodden on quite a lot. Because normally he's sort of about, you know, not much bigger than the shoe on most of the fashionistas, you know.
Mhm.
um, there is something about, I actually started out because it was an easy way to film and get around and move fast and, you know, no frame count to speak of. But actually, over time, I've kind of really channeling my inner cat, you know, in that avatar. So I can quite understand that, you know, you would find, you know, you'd be a dwarf or some kind of miniature person or or just creature, and you know that would, you know, that viewpoint of existing in the world would appeal.
Well, and in real life, I'm only 5'3", so I kind of relate to the Dinkies.
Right, okay. And the dinkies are quite, they although they're small, they aren't as small as tinies, are they? They're a kind of
I
uh,
don't think they are. I haven't seen any tinies in open sim.
Yeah.
yeah,
I'm sure they're around somewhere.
Hmm.
But the dinkies, no, they're small, but I don't know that they're that small. I think they're ridiculously cute,
yeah,
and so that's that's why we're doing them. And the region that we're doing is based on like a resort kind of area. It's got a lodge, it's got a whole beach and all the water activities that you can think of. It's got cabins, a racetrack. We have um, Roland Francis, bless his heart, made
Mm-hmm.
Shetland ponies for us because the horses were too big for the dinkies and we
Right.
needed something small for the
oh,
dinkies to ride. So we have
oh,
Shetland ponies to ride.
oh
Yeah, and that's
no,
the thing.
yeah,
A lot of the grids have villages, dinky resorts, and everything is dinky sized. Even greedy tables,
yeah.
and yeah, it's great.
I
It's
once
kind of
read
fun
an
because I
initial,
go shopping. I
Yeah.
go shopping and I get furniture and I bring it back and I shrink everything down to like one or two,
Oh, okay.
and then it's
yeah.
perfect for the dinkies.
Right.
Yeah, that's the great thing about virtual objects. You can scale them to requirements. But I
Hmm.
also remember in the one theory with the Chinese thing in Second Life was that um, So a same-size region was suddenly a bigger region because not they're obviously smaller in height than the regular Avatar, but because their buildings were smaller and they're fit in smaller places, you could get more of these small places where you could get a dinky home. You could get 4 dinky homes in the space of one full-size adult home, kind of thing. It was so there was an economy. You could get into one sim what adults would need 4 for or something. So
Hmm.
it's good. 'Cause if everybody else around you is the same size, you really a lot of people say that Open Sim and Second Life avatars by default have always been rather tall and bigger than would be real, which does seem to be the case. But if it's all down to what your friends and colleagues look like. If they're all about the same size as you, then you sort of think, oh, sort of normal, except for the ones that are really small. But if you are in a region that is like a dinky or tiny region, then everybody else looks about the same height. There's probably no difference. There's no special perception of being a dinky when everybody else is one. It's just all your friends are like you, kind of thing. I'm getting too philosophical and I'm not explaining it at all well here, but yeah.
I could tell you a funny story on that height thing. I at one point had Livia at what my real life height is, which is 5'3", and I went to a commercial grid to shop, and it's open to everyone. And I got there, all of a sudden, wham! I got slammed out, and I couldn't teleport away. But the note was that I was actually too short to be in that region.
Hmm. Did they suspect you were a child?
That's exactly what it was. They thought I
Right,
was a kid
right.
because I wasn't tall enough, but yet the avatar was the same height that I am in real life.
Yeah, my avatar is the same height as
Right.
me. This avatar is 5'7", 5'8", and a lot of times in events you feel like, oh, people might think I'm a child, but I'm not. This is my most comfortable height.
Es-
Yeah,
Especially when you're among Italians, because Italians tend to make their avatars kind of gigantic.
gigantic. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, I've
Yeah,
seen
I
that.
think it's really funny. I think you don't find an Italian avatar that is less than 2 meters tall.
Yeah, yeah,
That's funny, and it's like Americans always tend to. There's an awful lot of American avatars that actually bulk themselves out. They seem to think they like to be bulky.
Hmm.
I won't say obese. I'll just say
Well,
bulky.
well,
Um,
I
the
I think
tall,
the
dark Italian is a cliche, isn't it? Yeah.
I think as the Italians have a fame in Europe to be rather short,
right,
the
right.
small men, small people. So in real life, they make themselves especially big.
And I wonder if the
Yeah,
Hmm.
Dutch,
yeah.
if the Dutch make themselves smaller.
Oh, it's funny. Yeah, you always want to be the opposite of what you are, kind
That's
of
right.
thing.
Yep.
Well, I
Hmm.
must admit, I've told this story enough, but there was a company called Mikazook probably 10 years or more ago, that did a prototype sort of virtual world thing, and it was based on a mirror thing. They built virtual places based on open source maps. There's one in Paris, there was in Times Square in New York and things, and their idea was that eventually they could have a huge virtual world with mirroring real world, but there was so perspective arguments of our own ownership. But like, would I own if my apartment is part of a greater building, then I can't claim the building in the virtual world. I can only claim the part of the building that equates with my apartment in the real world. Oh, complicated. But they scanned me, and I had an avatar that was photographically accurate, both shape and skin to mine, and were on French TV, believe it or not, and they were filming us in the virtual New York, and I saw myself wandering in this thing, and of course it was first person view, so I couldn't see myself like in a mirror. But when I saw myself on the TV recording, I Oh, I don't know what I thought. Right, no, I don't under any circumstances want the real me in a virtual world. It was a culture shock to see. That was my face. That was everything about me was in that avatar. It's like seeing a miniature, hologram of me walking around. And I suddenly realized that actually that really wasn't much fun when you can actually make your avatar be what you want. And I've always been close to the real me, but never the real me ever since. It's much better to have an idealized or overkill avatar maybe than something that is too much of the uncanny valley, so to speak. But I'm sure other people like the idea.
I do know this. My avatar is like almost the complete opposite of what I am in real life.
That's mine too. I mean, the real life me I have every day in real life, so it's no. I wanted something very different in virtual world than what I'm in real life, because the real life thing I have every day, like it or not, there it
Yeah.
is.
So we want to
That's right.
escape or
I see it in the mirror every day. I don't want to look at it in open.
Exactly,
You
exactly,
know.
exactly, exactly.
but of course now of course they've I think it's in Firestorm too. I think they now have mirrors, don't you? You can make mirrors. Certainly in
Oh
Second
yeah,
Life
the
you can.
PBR textures allow for mirrors, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Hmm.
I suddenly you, but you might better tell me this. So that all around this island and region and around this little studio as well, there's water, waves, and putting all this foliage there because I think it's rich and colourful and looks nice. But the one thing missing is the reflection upside down of what's above the water in the water. And I'm
Mm.
wondering if we can use this mirror technology to make a sort of flat mirror that is just resting under the surface of the water that will actually act as a, because that's what a mirror is. The water is acting as a mirror, and when you see things reflected in water, it's a mirror. Like you go to drink some water and you see your face reflected in the pool too. Um, so I think if we got some kind of mirror technology at work, then I could use it on the water too. Don't know.
I could also set that in the environment, because
Yeah.
you can do
Yeah.
the water settings in the environment, and I could set it to reflect more, or even in your own graphics you can set it that the water will reflect everything.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yep.
notice I was trying some water settings. It didn't even occur to me to tell it to be a mirror. Wow. Okay. Well, now I know. I've learned something today. Go to settings. Yes, that's a good idea. Go to the settings for water.
That's
Right.
if have
Okay.
you updated to the PBR version of Firestorm?
Noticed
No.
that. No, I haven't either. I don't think.
Okay.
I
All
don't.
right.
Well, I'm not sure. I'm on 6.6.1469
Yeah.
five nine
No.
six.
Nope. You couldn't see it then, I don't think.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm never quite sure because I mean the last Firestorm for Second Life had faults in it and they rolled it back, didn't they? And I'm never quite, I don't want to end up with a Firestorm that immediately has to be uninstalled.
Oh, I think
You
it's
know.
fine. I'm on 7.1 and it's wonderful and it's beautiful. It looks gorgeous.
And is it the open sim version?
Yes.
Oh, right, okay. I'll upgrade. Then I'll probably find that everything I've been building for 2 weeks is now out of date.
I haven't updated. My computer is not a new one. It's
Yeah.
older, and I understand it. The PBR uses a lot of
Mm.
CPU, so I don't want to crash.
Yeah,
Sure.
I've
Yeah.
tried the 7.1 version too, and it was just crash, 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 crash. It
Oh.
was like the first days in OpenSim more crash than online. So I decided to return to the 646.
I 6 foot.
Yeah,
Six
I'm on
four
the
six.
6.6.17. That's what I'm on right now.
Oh, and I'm six. I'm the 1.4, so I'm actually behind all of you.
No, I'm also
It's
at
also-
1.4. Mel. I'm just exactly the same version as you were.
All right.
But
614.
in
Oh,
your
yeah.
graphics settings, under preferences, if you go into your graphics settings, you can
Yeah.
set the water to reflect everything. And it really does. It looks beautiful when it reflects everything.
Mm, mm.
Okay, so I go to preferences, I go to graphics, and I had been fiddling with water rendering. Where it is, water,
Mm-hmm.
world updating, extra rendering. No, it doesn't mention water here.
See what mine says.
Depth of field, hardware, and all. Oh,
Graphics.
shaders, transparent water.
Yeah, and then your advanced lighting model. If you take it like all the way up to the ultra quality, then under there it should say shadows and then water reflections.
Uh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Shadows.
And then water reflections, and you can set that to reflect everything.
Oh, right. Okay, I've just done that. And oh, shadows has gone to sun and moon and projectors. Is that what it
Hmm
meant to happened at the same time as water? It did both at once. Or that might have been an accident. Point lighting. Oh, that's on full anyway. So shadows should be none, or should it be sun and moon? Sun and moon and projectors. Oh, why not? We'll just okay. Um, okay, that I will see later. Live on TV, you can't see where my camera's going, but it's actually gone to the water. And oh, yeah, there is. Yeah, there is some reflection there now. Yeah, some of it's a bit odd actually, but right, okay. So, all my idea of making a mirror for the water is totally unnecessary. Oh, I'm so good at coming up with great ideas that are totally redundant. Right. Okay. Well, Tosha and James, any um, more questions for La Via?
Yeah, sure. Lavia, how long has
Via, La Via.
how long has Genesis Roleplay been in existence as a grid?
Come this October will be 3 years.
Oh wow, okay, fantastic.
Yeah, and we're slowly growing. We have some people that have come on board. They don't want regions; they just want a place to set home.
Okay,
And fortunately, we've just gotten one who is a live performer, and so we're hoping to be able to do something with that. She's all over different places where she's performing now,
okay.
and I've also gotten the ability now to DJ and to perform live. So that's something that's in the future for me.
Yeah, well, that's something
And
that makes me ask then about in-world economy. The main reason I use an in-world economy is for tipping performers. So much is free in OpenSim, but running a PayPal tip out to somebody is always I found that inconvenient, and just paying money in world is I really enjoy that way of tipping a performer.
it's something that we can consider. We haven't monetized the grid.
Mm-hmm.
If we
Mm-hmm.
wanted to, we usually use PayPal.
Yep.
Most of the people that I run across prefer the PayPal. It's just easier for them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I guess we didn't really want to monetize the grid.
Yep.
And I think we'd probably have to go that direction if we wanted to go with like Glowbits or something like that.
Yep.
And PayPal, of course, it destroys any anonymity people have, of course,
Yeah.
because the PayPal
Yeah.
account is your real person.
Right.
But it is convenient because tipping, has always been essential from Second Life days. For the musicians, they hope to get something from the venue and push themselves as much as they can, get a following and get more tips. And it can really add up. I remember there's actually it's Italian composer performer from Second Life days. I met him through Slim Warrior, and he got hold of me one time. He says, "Do I know anything about getting converting lindens to real money and getting it out, you know. I said, no, I haven't really ever done that or anything anyway. Sort of but he did, in the process, he revealed the amount of lindens he had that he was trying to monetize. I realized he's been making a lot of money in this place, you know. It was a considerable amount, you know.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised because his reputation is mostly classical and but yeah, there's the other thing I was going to ask actually, that, what James said has almost raised it for me, is your grid, of course, is called Genesis Roleplay. Now, is this from the early stages when everything you were doing was sort of what you might call actually role play? Or is it like a running philosophy there, or is it just a legacy name that you included role play in it?
Actually, the grid was my daughter had gotten the grid before I joined it. I was on another grid at the time, and she started out with just a region, and she decided to go with the grid. And the grid that I was on, there were issues there, and it went down. And so then my daughter offered me and the other people from our grid to join her grid. So we all did. And so she named it because that's what she was into. She was into role play. She's still very much into it. Right now, they're doing, I think, Supernatural
Oh,
is
okay.
what they're role playing now.
Right.
And I do role play when they're into the role play where they're on grid. Um, and I'm interested in doing more. If there's anybody out there that wants to do some role play and join our grid, that's fine. But I'm really, really into the building, and it's my hope that these different regions that I'm building, whether they're historical or what they are, historical fantasy, that people will use them for their own role play. I mean, they don't have to be from our grid to role play on those regions. They
Ah,
can be from other grids to role play on the regions that I built if it fits their role play venue.
yeah. No, that makes perfect sense. I mean, back when well, I've now different grids of my own, including Atlloud one that was offline. But I started by, and in a way, I've done it a bit here. Is the studios where I film the show, but like there can be any other micro environments where you could film something like two people talking or one person addressing the camera or whatever. So I'm always thinking as little pockets in a build could be a micro studio for something. It's not role play as such, but it's like a different context, lots of different
Mhm.
filming locations, not one big one, but lots of little ones that could be used, as scenes in a sequence rather than one big world. Um, yeah, so and one of my early builds used to, I'd have a small garden, but there wasn't room to have a big garden, but I knew of other grids that had huge gardens. So I would hide a teleport in my little garden, so when you walked through the little arch, it teleported you to this other grid, which was a big garden. It's a bit like the blog roll thing, except nobody reciprocated, and you need to put the door back again, so come back when you finish. But the idea that these little teaser environments could be hypergrid jumps to somewhere else on the hypergrid that is an extended version of the kind of environment I was making. So you like the environment, you travel on to more like that. And I suppose with role play, I mean, if you're playing cowboys and Indians, you might well go to the Western town because it fits the cowboy and Indians role play, if you see what I mean.
Right.
So links that have a purpose like that, but are rather aren't just random. Like so is a big sign teleport to outer space when in fact you're in an ancient Rome or something, doesn't quite gel. And so no, the psychology of doing that I think helps, because people. I think the Trekkies are probably one of the biggest there. There's Star Trek things here, there, and everywhere, and a lot of them sort of linked to each other. So it's the greater community, in the same subject, same obsession, if you like.
Mhm.
Um, but holds them together. But I don't know. These are all philosophical theories of the way open works.
Right.
Yeah.
Also, I've had people, they look at the grid and they say, well, do I have to role play to join?
Oh.
No, you don't have to be a role player to join our grid. I mean, we welcome anybody. Um, that I love to have people that can build, like Thorvalder does, like I do. Different people like that can build and create their own regions, create something that that they like, um, and invite their friends to it. That's what the grid is there for. You do not have to be a role player to join the Genesis Roleplay Grid.
If you are a role player, you will find a few places to role play. Love it. Okay, so it actually answered my question. And really, it's a legacy name, but there's nothing wrong with that. Really, it's great part of the history. Tosha, any other sort of thoughts for La Via?
Oh, just one remark to Lavia. I'm really awed by your creativity, Lavia. It's just unbelievable.
Thank you.
I couldn't even say you're welcome because it is that way. It's not
Right.
meant to be a compliment or anything. You're just unbelievably creative.
Well, I would say I would concur with that.
Yeah,
From
me
what
too.
we've seen and previously.
And apart, of course, I love your creations. I haven't been to all of your places, but I've been to quite a few, and everything I've seen on the way, it's just lovely and out of this world. Really, very, very beautiful, and it's just like a must for everybody to go pass onto your grids and look around.
Yeah, great for safari. Yep.
I appreciate your kind words. It's very encouraging for me when people appreciate what I build, and they enjoy visiting it and they spend time to see everything that's there. Because a lot of the regions, even with Safari, we didn't get to see all of it. We only got to see a small portion of it because
Always.
of the
yes.
limited amount of time. But come and spend the time and see everything that's there, and like I said, for me, it's very encouraging when I get compliments from people, when I get comments that are very positive. And I did get a very positive one on Chinoshima, and I appreciated that greatly, and that just really encourages me to continue on and move forward, and do better and come up with something even greater. And sometimes I put a burden on myself, and then I think, what on earth am I doing? but
Yeah.
but when it's done, and then I look at it and say, did I do that? It's like it's really cool when you can stand back and look at something you built, and you really can't believe that you built that.
Yes, I
Yeah.
know the feeling. I know exactly that feeling. Also, the feeling of the burden. What the hell am I doing that to myself for?
Was
And
it?
then
Yeah,
you,
it's kind of.
and then you got the thing finished or almost finished, and then you know exactly what you did it for.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
it's when you're standing back saying, "When is this going to finish? What else do I need to do?" In awe of, yeah, I don't know,
Yeah.
great stuff. Okay, well, I think we best consider it time to wrap. I've just put the picture up again for Open World's Fair. Of course, this is the last week, effectively. You can go there, I believe. Well, I think this time next week is the 28th, so maybe you've got a week and a day or two. But basically, we're in the last week of the 4 weeks of that. The address, opensimworldsfair.com, is on screen. And you can find it advertised just about everywhere anyway. And what else? So yes, I'm not going to go without putting up our own thing again, which month of March is ended. Come on, what's happening here? Oh, I'm clicking the wrong button. There we are. When March is ended, we have April, and April the 4th to the 6th will be the international Hypergrid International Expo. which is on the grid called HG Safari, by the way, which Safari has its own grid these days, so it's a region built on that, and it's spectacular. I mean, we're part of it, so we've been seeing it all come together and everything else. So looking forward to that. I don't know. It will be appropriate if we can sort of celebrate it a bit in advance on next week's show. If Those is free or well, whatever comes up. But we'll be back next week anyway. Obviously, we will not be back the week after because that will be in the middle of it. And the 6th, of course, will be the Sunday, so we'll be taking a week off.
Well, one thing said about the Hypergrid International Expo is that I think the main thing is not only that there is a great amount of creativity and also music and party, of course, but the creativity of the participants is really great. But what I think is the most important thing is that all performers perform in their own language, not
Oh,
the
yeah.
most spoken language, the English, and there will be a translation for everything. So everybody that comes to join the Hypergrid International Expo should join in their language group, and then they get in the group chats all the translation of the speeches of everything. And I think it's really cool to have, we have there 5 different languages at the same time meeting, and that's really unique.
It is, and it's astonishing that we've managed to do it. Right? But,
Yeah.
you and those are particularly, all the translations, all the synchronized with the sessions in voice that are in given languages, and all the different groups so that you get your translations live and everything, and preparing all that, in 5 different languages at once is just an incredible achievement.
Yes.
Sort of it's almost a sort of a foreign language training course in its own right. I remember we had Heike Philp helping us with the first one, and she was just, because she teaches English as foreign language kind of thing, and she was just in awe of just how much it kind of all worked, and of course all the successive ones have been that way. It makes it an event unlike any other.
Well, but at this point, I think it is also necessary to mention Thirsa Ember, because she is the one in the background that coordinates everything, and she has done a wonderful job. I mean, a job that I couldn't do. I think nobody of us would be able to do that, and she did that just fantastically.
And Thursday has superhuman powers. You realise this? I mean,
Yes, yes.
she used to do the safari. She used to do this show. She did Hypergrid Expo with us. Anything that comes up, she's in there and doing it. And then, of course, she does
Yes,
complain that she thinks too much.
definitely.
But no, she's yes, a wonderful instigator and executor of these sort of things.
And with all that stress and all that work she does, she's always sweet, she's always friendly, she's always fair, and that's really cool. I mean, I really love her deeply.
Yeah, wonderful, wonderful job. So I think we can call it quits. I should ask you, Lavia. It feels like the same name anyway, Anything else you wanted to get in before we let you go?
Not that I can think of. I think we've covered everything pretty well.
Yeah, the moment we finish, think, oh, should have asked this, should have asked that. But yeah, there'll be another day. We'll have you back before long, I'm quite sure. There'll be another epic build coming up. And we'll have a special Dinkies show with you maybe when that gets going. That'd be fun.
But we do plan to have a grand opening for that, so I think it'll be pretty neat.
Yeah, I'm going to watch for that.
Special set here. We can build a special set and have a whole row in front for Dinkies or something. I don't know. Anyway, okay. Well, lovely to have you here, Lavia. Lavia. It sounds like the same pronunciation to me. Just I'm sorry about that. Great to have you here. Great build there, and we will see you soon. Thanks for coming.
Thank you very much for having me.
And I'd like to thank my right-hand man here, the he who sits and fiddles with the knobs, James Atlloud. Thank you, James.
Yeah, sure thing, Mel. And thank you for bringing us all together.
And thanks to my wonderful co-host, Tosha Ember. Thank you, Tosh.
Well, great, but Tosha Ember, no.
Yeah. That was funny.
I got that.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I guess we were just talking about the Thursday.
No, that's all right. That's quite all right. It's an honor for me to be.
Right.
Yeah, you're so good. You have to be a relative.
Tosha Ember.
Well, anyways,
Yeah.
thanks, Mal, for everything you do.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you to Tosha Tyran.
And thanks, Lavia, for having been. It's been great.
Oh, thank you. I very much enjoy being on, talking to you and talking about the things that we're doing and seeing all the new stuff that's going on all over OpenSim.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, before my wandering mind wanders too far elsewhere, better close down. I wish you all a very good morning, a very good afternoon, a very good evening, or indeed a good tomorrow, depending on wherever and whenever you are. Until next week, it's a wrap.